It's 6:30 in the west, 9:30 in the east on Potomac primary night. The last of the polls have just closed, and it's a good night for Barack Obama and John McCain. CBS News estimates Obama has scored victories in Virginia and Maryland, and McCain has done the same. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, safe at home. A temporary reprieve for homeowners on the brink of foreclosure. A CBS News exclusive, how an undercover FBI agent infiltrated the mob.
I am the second law enforcement officer ever to be proposed for membership into La Cosa Nostra.
And unlocking secrets frozen in time as we journey to the bottom of the earth.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And this is a special Western edition tonight with fewer commercials and more news. Good evening, everyone. We begin with the latest on the Potomac presidential primaries. The polls have just now closed in Maryland. A judge kept them open an extra 90 minutes because of bad weather there. And CBS News projects Democrat Barack Obama and Republican John McCain are the winners. A big night for them because we also estimate that Obama and McCain have won in the Old Dominion, Virginia, of course. For Obama, it was a blowout and not unexpected over Hillary Clinton. It was a much tougher battle for McCain as he squeaked out a victory over Mike Huckabee. In the third primary tonight, the polls have been closed in the District of Columbia for just over 90 minutes now, but it will be some time before we have the results. Let's turn now to our political wise men, Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer and Senior Political Correspondent Jeff Greenfield. Bob, first you, it was a good night overall for John McCain, but he's still having trouble making inroads with conservatives, isn't he?
Well, he is. I mean, that's kind of I think the big headline here, Katie, is that John McCain won. I cannot see how Mike Huckabee can stay in the race for much longer, and I would expect you'll see that campaign begin to reassess. But it's not all good news for John McCain because in Virginia, this very conservative state, it turns out that 49% of those who voted in that primary thought that John McCain simply was not conservative enough. And it's much the same in Maryland, which is not quite as conservative, but even there, 43% thought that John McCain was not conservative enough. Now, that does not augur well for November. Democrats think they have a real good chance to take Virginia, and when you see that many people in Virginia on the Republican side are not quite satisfied with John McCain, that tells you the Democrats have reason to be happy about that.
Jeff Greenfield, do you think the conservatives will ultimately fall in line, though, for John McCain?
Sure. Whether they turn out money and enthusiasm is the question. But when they see either Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama on that other ticket, yes, they will.
Meanwhile, any good news tonight for Hillary Clinton, who got beat handily, and not unexpectedly, we should point out, in Maryland and Virginia?
You have to dig a bit. I mean, she not only lost a black vote overwhelmingly, Obama effectively split the white vote in both Virginia and Maryland, but white working class voters, those with less than $50,000 a year income and those with less than a college education, did stay with Clinton by substantial numbers in Virginia, a little less so in Maryland. As you look ahead to Ohio on March 4th, and even to Wisconsin next week, where there seems to be a feeling that, Obama should win that, a lot of white working class voters, a lot of union voters, so there's some nugget of hope that they can take.
All right, Jeff Greenfield and Bob Schieffer, gentlemen, as always, thank you so much. So as we said, a good night for John McCain. Chip Reed is in Alexandria, Virginia tonight covering the Republican contests. Chip, what's going on there?
Well, Katie, the response of the McCain campaign is that if there was any doubt before, there is no doubt now. John McCain will be the Republican nominee. And they've also said he's not going to be focused on Mike Huckabee from here on out. He's going to be focused on Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And speaking of Obama, there was an extraordinary moment on the Senate floor today. John McCain saw Obama over on the Democratic side. He crossed over to the Democratic side of the floor, gave him a big backslapping Senate hello, and Ken Salazar, a Democratic senator who was there with them, grabbed the two of them, squeezed them together in kind of a group hug, and somebody privy to that conversation says what Salazar told them is, whatever happens in this campaign, don't forget about bipartisanship. These parties have got to work together. Katie?
All right, Chip Reed, thanks so much, Chip. Dean Reynolds, meanwhile, is in Falls Church, Virginia tonight, covering the Democrats. A good night for Obama and another shakeup in the Clinton campaign, right, Dean?
Right, Katie. The deputy campaign manager, Mike Henry, has resigned 2 days after the campaign manager, Patty Solis Doyle, resigned to be replaced by Maggie Williams. It's not an earth-shaking development, and in fact, if Maggie Williams is able to streamline the campaign, it will come at precisely the right time for Senator Clinton, who, by the way, is in El Paso tonight in front of an Obama-sized crowd of 12,000 wildly cheering fans down there in Texas. Very important for her to hold the Hispanic vote on her side in that state. As for Obama, no shakeup in his campaign, and none needed. He did very well tonight. He's expecting to do well in Wisconsin and Hawaii next week. So it's on and on for Obama. Katie?
How concerned are they about Texas and Ohio in the Obama campaign, Dean?
Well, they see that Texas and the Hispanic vote that is abidingly loyal to Senator Clinton is a problem for them. But 1/3 of Texas is a caucus, Katie, remember, and he does very well in caucuses. Ohio is something else, but they see fertile field there as well.
All right, should be very interesting. Dean Reynolds. Dean, thank you so much. Now to another big story, the mortgage crisis. Many American families are in danger of losing their homes to foreclosure, and not just those who have those subprime mortgages. Well, today the Bush administration announced a new plan that will give some of them a temporary reprieve. For eligible homeowners whose payments are 90 days or more overdue, it would freeze the foreclosure process for 30 days. Nancy Cordes has details.
This case in point would be $4,000.
Project Lifeline is the latest attempt to throw a rope to the more than 2 million families drowning in debt and in danger of foreclosure.
If someone is willing to make a call, to reach out, there's a chance that they can save their home.
6 of the nation's largest lenders have agreed to take part. Together, they make up half the U.S. mortgage market. The plan buys homeowners time, 30 days, to forestall foreclosure while they try to work out new mortgage terms with their banks.
These efforts are to help American families who both want and can, through a loan modification or refinancing, stay in their homes.
7.3% of all mortgages are now delinquent, the highest rate since 1979. Even homeowners with good.
Now to the CBS News Money Watch. Billionaire investor Warren Buffett offered today to help troubled bond insurers, and that eased concerns on Wall Street about a worsening credit crisis. The Dow gained 133 points today. The Nasdaq, meanwhile, lost a fraction. General Motors, celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, though, had some bad news today. It reported losing nearly $39 billion in 2007, the biggest loss in the industry's history. GM is now offering a new round of buyouts to 74,000 hourly workers. More now from Kelly Wallace.
Just take those old records off the shelf.
Just a month after General Motors pulled out all the stops unveiling its latest designs, the company's road to recovery has hit more than a pothole. It is now the biggest loser of the big three, posting the largest loss ever for a U.S. automaker, much of it due to a one-time accounting change.
They are in a better financial position than that makes it look. That being said, they still have a lot of work to do.
While the auto giant is making money around the world, earnings in Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa are up 140%, GM continues to struggle in North America.
Much of the problem, analysts say, is image. Studies have found that there's now very little quality gap between U.S. and foreign cars, but that's not the perception.
The perceived quality, in other words, what's in customers' minds, is that the Asians are still making better cars than the domestics. So there is a perception gap.
I swapped my Toyota Camry for this Ford Fusion.
Hoping to change that, Ford's recent ad campaign showcases American owners of foreign cars who were given Fords to test drive for a week and were pleasantly surprised.
That is a nice car.
This is really comfortable.
Even in the part of the market where Detroit has been the heavyweight, foreign competitors have muscled in. After GM's 2006 Silverado, Toyota introduced a major revision to its Tundra, offered incentives, and set off a price war.
GM didn't really have a choice. They had to meet some of those incentives and, in fact, exceed some of those.
To survive, GM must have competitive pricing and better quality. The real challenge, getting Americans to love American again. Kelly Wallace, CBS News, New York.
In Moscow today, the Russian military described a close encounter with U.S. fighters over the Pacific Saturday as routine. Now the Pentagon has released pictures of the event that seem anything but routine. They show the Russian Bear bomber heading for the USS Nimitz, the Bear being intercepted by an American F-18, and the two planes maneuvering very close to each other. The chief of U.S. Naval Operations downplayed the incident today and said he does not consider it a provocative act. Now a CBS News exclusive, a rare glimpse inside the secret world of the mafia. Tonight, an undercover FBI agent is giving his first TV interview explaining how he helped take down the bosses of a top organized crime family by convincing them that he could be trusted. He told his story to our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
I told him I was going to do it, I'll do it.
Only one other undercover agent in history has walked in his shoes, played a role to such perfection as to be offered the Mafia's most sacred blessing.
I am the second law enforcement officer ever to be proposed for membership into La Cosa Nostra.
This is a friend of mine. That means you're a connected guy.
The first, immortalized in the movie Donnie Brasco, tells the tale of FBI agent Joe Pistone, who infiltrated the Bonanno crime family back in the mid-1970s.
We got surveillance photographs.
Now, for the first time on television, a modern-day Brasco who still works undercover tells CBS News how he convinced the notorious Gambino crime family he was one of their own.
You're always afraid for your life, and when you work undercover, and anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. I mean, things could turn like this.
His riveting story begins as Jack Garcia, a Cuban-born immigrant turned FBI undercover agent with a gift for creating characters. From a drug lord to small-time mobsters over 20 years.
So I would come in and say, look, I got a score, I got some television sets.
Then he went big game hunting after the Gambinos, posing as Jack Falcone, a Miami wise guy.
Jack Falcone was a knockaround guy from Florida who was a jewel thief, he was a hijacker, but he kind of was an individual that was surrounded in Miami by the Cuban culture.
It was the spring of 2003 when Jack Falcone, a.k.a. Jackie Boy, caught the eye of Gambino capo Greg DePalma, who controlled loan sharking, gambling, and construction rackets in and around New York.
They wanted me because I was an earner. You're not a broken-down garbage can. You're a guy who makes money, and that's what the mob is all about.
Falcone eventually earned DePalma's trust by offering an endless supply of stolen goods, like Rolex watches, cigarettes, and televisions, all provided by the FBI.
Jack, there has to be a moment when the door opens and you realize, I am in.
I remember that day distinctively. I met with him, at which time he presented me with a beautiful diamond pinky ring. And he told me how he put me on record with the Gambino crime family. You're under our umbrella.
Wearing a court-authorized wire, over the next 2 years, Falcone secretly recorded DePalma and other bosses concocting money-making schemes at restaurants, diners, even this Jewish geriatric center, the FBI monitoring almost every meeting.
In a scene straight out of Hollywood, at one point Falcone was called upon to talk to a made man not paying the proper respect to DePalma. The meeting took place in this Bloomingdale's in the houseware section.
Things turned ugly. Falcone says he watched a mob soldier pick up a solid glass candlestick and bash the guy over the head.
In the houseware
section. In the houseware, grabs it, hits him right over the head, cracks his head open, you hear like a melon breaking.
In March of 2005, the FBI swooped in and arrested DePalma, his bosses Arnold Squitieri and Anthony the Genius McGalley, along with dozens of underlings, essentially decapitating the family. All pleaded guilty except DePalma, who insisted on going to trial, where before his eyes, his Jackie Boy turned into FBI agent Jack Garcia, putting DePalma behind bars for 12 years.
Describe the look on DePalma's face as he's staring at you when you're up on that witness stand.
It was like if he could just get his hands around my neck.
Are you worried that Greg DePalma wants to put you in the ground?
And what the Bureau did, and this is what's was great, is they went out and they spoke to all the heads of all the 5 families. And they told them that if anything is to happen to Jack Falcone, the reign of terror will fall upon them.
Even if the mob chose to ignore the threat and challenge the FBI, this agent has now assumed another identity in a whole other underworld. Armin Katayan, CBS News, somewhere in Connecticut.
And coming up next, the secrets of climate change hidden deep beneath Antarctica as we journey to the bottom of the Earth. For half a century, Antarctica has been a giant science lab where researchers have studied everything from penguins to rocks. That was the focus when CBS News visited 9 years ago. But all that changed with climate change. Now the continent and its massive amounts of ice are offering valuable clues about global warming. John Blackstone has taken a 10,000-mile trip back to discover the secrets contained in the ice and under it for our series, Journey to the Bottom of the Earth.
At the South Pole, it's 48 degrees below zero on a typical summer day. Welcome to the Earth's air conditioner. Antarctica holds 90% of the Earth's ice, 7 million cubic miles of it. Here at the South Pole, the enormity of the Antarctic ice sheet is striking. Beneath me, the ice is 2 miles thick, and this ice sheet stretches over an area as large as the United States and Mexico combined. It's ice so thick, it buries entire Antarctic mountain ranges. It's so cold at the South Pole, the snow never melts. It just turns to ice and gets thicker. The secrets of that ice are now coming into focus.
To me, the really cool thing about Antarctic ice is the bubbles in it.
Those bubbles are samples of the Earth's ancient atmosphere trapped in the ice. For Ken Taylor, the ice is like a library stacked with climate records going back thousands of years. He expects his ice core samples will confirm a key argument in global warming.
The current levels of greenhouse gases are much higher than they've been at any time in the last 650,000 years, and that's all due to human activity.
When CBS News last visited here in 1999, the geodesic dome of the American Science Station was already disappearing under the snow. Now there's a new state-of-the-art station for dozens of scientists and support workers. It's on stilts, so it can be raised as the snow builds around it. No one owns the South Pole, but the American presence here makes a subtle point about who's in charge, discouraging the kind of competing land grabs currently happening at the North Pole, where Russia even sent a submarine to plant its flag in the ocean floor beneath the pole.
This station represents the U.S. presence and playing a key role in scientific research to understand our planet better.
So the National Science Foundation is funding ambitious experiments here, while other science budgets are getting cut. This $272 million telescope drilled into the ice is looking down. It detects neutrinos, powerful particles from space that travel right through the Earth and may reveal how the universe was formed.
There's a chance that this telescope, we're going to have great discoveries that no one will have been able to predict.
More immediate discoveries are coming under the ice in the ocean around Antarctica, from penguins to fish with antifreeze in their blood. This is one of the last largely undisturbed ecosystems on Earth.
Is a pycnogonid or a sea spider? Would you like to hold him?
A sea spider. He doesn't bite.
He doesn't, nope.
And it's filled with unusual creatures.
What I find interesting about this guy is that his shell's on the inside, so if you squish him, he's squishy on the outside and crunchy on the inside.
That somehow survive when they should be freezing.
There's a lot of things that these organisms can do which would be really great for us to be able to understand and apply to human biology.
Like how doctors can use cold fluids to keep critically ill patients alive. Cool science from a frozen continent. John Blackstone, CBS News at the South Pole.
And tomorrow, as we continue our journey to the bottom of the Earth, the perils of frozen trash that has been there for over a century. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. We thank the single sponsor of tonight's broadcast, and of course, we thank you for watching. Good night.